Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder. Today we are diving into Newsmax's latest financial report. It's always interesting to see how the news is making news itself, especially when numbers are involved. You might be surprised where the story takes us. This quarter, Newsmax has a lot to talk about, from a huge jump in cash to ongoing legal battles and, more importantly, what all of that means for the company's future. Before we get started, if you are into getting straight insights from corporate filings, make sure you're subscribed and come hang out with us on Discord. There's a link down below in the description. First off, this is a Form 10Q, which is basically a quarterly checkup for publicly traded companies filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, here in the United States. It gives investors a look under the hood to see how things are going financially. This one is for the period ending March 31, 2025. As of May 15, 2025, Newsmax had roughly 39 million shares of Class A common stock and almost 89 million shares of Class B common stock outstanding. Let's get into the financial statements. The first thing that jumps out is the cash. Cash and cash equivalents have skyrocketed to over $126 million compared to just $24 million at the end of last year. That's a massive increase, suggesting a major influx of funds. Their investments also went up, hitting almost $90 million. So where is all this money coming from? Looking at the liabilities, the settlement liability has decreased, meaning they paid some of it off. What they owe from that dropped. Something else interesting is what happened with the warrant liability. It went from almost $6.5 million down to zero. A warrant gives the holder the right to purchase shares at a specific price, so this change could mean those warrants were exercised or expired. We will need to keep an eye on this. The same thing happened with the derivative liability. It also went down to zero. Derivatives are contracts whose value is derived from something else. Again, more changes that are worth digging into. Overall, liabilities have dropped significantly from $122 million to about $70 million. That, combined with all of the cash, leads to a large increase in stockholder equity. In simple terms, the company's overall financial position has improved quite a bit. Now let's look at the income statement, which shows how much money the company made and spent. The revenue from services, their main business, is up a bit to about $43.7 million. Product revenue from selling things like books and supplements also saw a slight increase to $1.5 million. Overall, total revenue is up around $45 million, an increase from the $40 million. The gross profit, which is revenue minus the cost of providing those services and products, came in at $21.6 million. However, expenses are also up. General and administrative expenses, which include things like salaries and advertising, jumped up. Personnel costs alone cost $10, $20. Advertising cost just over $4 million. Professional fees, including legal and consulting, came in at $2.6 million. Rent and utilities are $1.4 million. What is other corporate matters, you might ask? Well, that cost a whopping $9.6 million. This must be where a lot of legal fees from their lawsuits are included. In total, the general and administrative expenses total $33.2 million. This means Newsmax had an operating loss of $11.5 million. But there's some other financial stuff happening here too. They earned a little over $1 million in investment and dividend income, which is good. Interest expenses barely cost anything at just over $6,000. They did make an unrealized gain of $1.5 million on marketable securities, meaning some investments did well. However, other expenses really dragged them down, costing $2 million. After all that, the total net loss for the quarter was over $17 million. That is a substantial loss. The net loss per share to stockholders landed at negative 0.49, meaning every share lost 49 cents during the quarter. That is never a good sign. Looking at the other comprehensive income line item, there was an unrealized gain on available for sale debt investments of $482 and $391. The report continues on with cash flow information. Net cash used in operating activities came in at negative $15.7 million. Purchasing investments cost them $36 million. However, maturing investments brought in $7.2 million. The cash flow statement says that the company had nearly $148 million provided by financing activities. Around $87 million came from issuing convertible preferred stock. and $74 million was from common stock, with the rest being mostly payments of issuance costs. All of these activities combined brought the company's cash up over $102 million. That all nets out to a very healthy ending balance of almost $127 million in cash and equivalents. The company completed a corporate reorganization. Newsmax Inc., the parent company, was formed as a holding company that owns all the outstanding shares of the operating company, Newsmax Media Inc. They also issued a private placement memorandum to potential investors and held an offering. The offering was completed in February 2025. Then on March 28, 2025, the company completed its initial public offering, or IPO. All the shares of the company's preferred stock automatically converted into shares of common stock. At the same time, they reclassified share capital to implement a dual class of securities, meaning some shares have more voting rights than others. Following the IPO, the company listed on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol NMAX. The revenue is recognized when the company transfers goods or services to the customers, and the revenue is made from service revenue, which comes from the multi-platform content, proprietary database, video subscription service, and much more. Advertising leads the way, pulling in $28.8 million affiliate fees. The company's investments are measured at fair value, meaning what they could be sold for in the open market. Most of Newsmax's assets, like cash and US Treasury securities, fall into what's called Level 1 and Level 2 assets. That basically means their prices are easy to find whether they are directly traded on exchanges or have observable market data. Time for legal matters. Newsmax is involved in a number of legal claims related to defamation from some of their reporting about the 2020 election. The company settled with Smartmatic, but is still battling a lawsuit with Dominion Voting Systems seeking billions in damages. This continues to be an area to watch closely. They also have a few commitments on the books. A little over $8 million relates to distribution agreements. These are the deals they make to get their channel on TV providers. Additionally, there are some other contractual commitments for talent costs and other service agreements. The company operates two main segments, broadcasting and digital. Revenue and adjusted earnings were called out for each one. This lets us see where they're making and losing money. The company relies on different methods to measure fair value, which is the price that would be received to sell an asset or paid to transfer a liability. The company had a 6,765 to 1 forward stock split, which is when the number of shares are increased, but it doesn't fundamentally change the company's value. There were changes related to the reclassifications from temporary to permanent equity and value conversion of convertible securities. So what's the story here? Well, the huge cash balance is definitely a positive, driven by successful fundraising efforts. But the net loss and some ongoing legal challenges paint a more complicated picture. Newsmax is clearly investing in growth, but they need to keep costs under control and navigate these legal hurdles to really thrive. They are also walking a tightrope with their reporting, since they face material lawsuits related to the content they publish. Newsmax is trying to capitalize on their following to make it a profitable business. There are certainly big risks and big opportunities as Newsmax moves forward. Alright, that's our breakdown of Newsmax's latest filing. What's your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.